Okay, so you want to get a life insurance policy and you have children who happen to be minors. You want to make them beneficiaries, but what do you do? So here's the thing. If you have children who are minors, you're often allowed to make them beneficiaries, both primary and contingent. Contingent would step in if something were to happen to the primary, but they're not going to be able to receive any of the death benefit until they are the age of 18, which is the legal age, okay? So what's going to happen in that case, if you have not chosen a guardian prior to your passing, the court will. If you have made your children beneficiaries, the courts will appoint a guardian of those things that have been left to them. Now, this can be very risky, and it can actually be risky if you have to choose a guardian, because you want to make sure that both you, if you choose, or if the courts are choosing, have chosen someone who is going to have your best interest and your children's best interest at heart, okay? And that can be rather difficult. But see, when it comes to the courts, they may choose someone who's available, but who may not necessarily be the best person. Now, if there's a spouse involved, oftentimes, that spouse will be made the guardian, and then they can just continue, and I hate to use the word normal because it's not going to be normal if you're not there, but they can continue with as much normalcy as they can. But if someone else is chosen, because guess what? Someone can have physical guardianship over your child and still not have monetary guardianship over your child. So what do? You could create a living trust, okay? And then create a trustee. Now, in this case, the living trust, right, would be the beneficiary of your life insurance policy. And then your children, who are still minors, could be the beneficiaries of your living trust, okay? Similarly, and I want to make sure you don't get confused with this, let's say that you have a spouse. Your spouse could be the primary beneficiary, and the trust could be the contingent or secondary beneficiary. And then that way, if something were to happen to your spouse, the life insurance policy would be housed inside that trust. So if something were to happen to your spouse, because the trust was the secondary beneficiary, your policy would then go to the trust. And of course, then, however you have it set up for your children would come into play. Once again, if you haven't done that, the courts are going to set a guardian over this matter. Now, one thing you want to understand, when the courts get involved, the courts don't typically do things for free. So this could require a lot of money and a lot of time. And of course, time costs money. So you could end up actually blowing a lot of the money that you intended to leave to your children in this kind of process. So that's very risky to just leave it to the courts. But there's also something called the Uniform Gifts to Minors Act and the Uniform Transfer to Minors Act. Now, the Uniform Transfer to Minors Act handles things that are riskier and of more value, but essentially it's the same type of thing. It allows for the transfer of assets, including cash, to a custodial account, and eligible expenses for a minor can be taken from that. If it's a minor, that means before they're 18. But that's still going to have to be something that's done with a guardian. But normally in this case, the guardian does not have the kind of leeway over the assets that they would have without this type of arrangement, okay? So there's a lot of things. I would also strongly suggest that you speak with an estate planning attorney, someone with a state law background, and they can assist you a little bit more. But this is just something to think about if you want to get a life insurance policy and you have minor children involved. What do you do?